Good morning. On behalf of CSPA, I would like to formally welcome you to Ottawa for the 2003 CSPA AGM. For those that don't know me, I'm Kenita Vanstone. I'm the current president of CSPA. Are you getting that feedback? Speak louder. Thank you. All my French friends, bear with me. Bonjour. Un nom de l'ACPS, jamais vous souhaiter officiellement la bienvenue à toi pour l'AGA 2023 de l'ACPS. Pour ceux qui ne me connaissent pas, je suis Kenita Vanstone et je suis la présidente de l'ACPS. La réunion se déroulera principalement en anglais, cependant, les questions et commentaires peuvent être posés en français. Okay, sorry, again, those who really owed it, I adore you. The city of Ottawa honors the peoples and land of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation. The city of Ottawa honors all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples and have their valuable past and present contributions to this land. Further, CSPA respects and affirms the inherent and treaty rights of all Indigenous peoples across the land. If you don't know which treaty territory you are on, I do refer you to the Government of Canada website to figure that out. I'm from, my band is from Treaty 5 in Manitoba, and I reside on Treaty 1 in Manitoba. The AGM is an annual meeting for voting members of CSPA. Voting members consist of the drop zones, provincial sport organizations, and clubs. This year, we have a number of you present in person or by proxy, along with quite a few attending virtually. They can't see me right now, but hi. The AGM is an annual yes. That being said, we are always seeking to involve the registered participants of CSPA and encourage your involvement with the association. And so, as chair of the meeting, I would like to officially welcome and recognize the registered participants in attendance and thank you for taking the time to come and learn about CSPA and how the association runs and represents you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. I would now like to consult with the voting members if they wish to allow registered participants and observers to speak during this meeting. Are there any objections to this? Are we good virtually? Seeing no objections, we will continue. We encourage discussion and participation throughout this meeting. So I would like to go over the protocols for conduct during this meeting, as well as for speaking. For those of you attending in person, to allow our online viewers full listening capability, there will be no speaking from your seats. So please, A, stand up and approach the microphone in the middle of the room. B, wait for the president, me, to give you permission to speak, and then introduce the name of the member you are speaking for. If you wish to speak and there is already someone at the microphone, that one, not this one, please form a line behind the microphone and wait your turn from me, the president. Also, just a reminder that we are streaming this meeting on the internet so that CSPA registered participants can view it, in addition to the voting members who are virtually attending the meeting. When I present each motion, there will be a bit of a lag time, so we will wait an extra minute to allow the virtual voters to ask for and if there are any questions or begin a debate. For those of you attending virtually, we appreciate your patience with any tech or other issues that may occur, although hopefully this will be minimal at most. Because we have Brian Cole, he's on it. Please note, our moderator is Michelle, CSPA's executive director and amazing rock star. All microphones will be muted. If you are given permission to speak, you will receive a prompt to unmute your microphone from the moderator. After you've spoken, please mute your microphone again, or it will be muted. Please raise your hand, virtually or in person, in the reactions command box, obviously not in person for this, if you wish to speak. After your question has been addressed, please unraise your hand. Once you've been unmuted by the moderator, please begin by introducing the name of the member you are speaking for. Questions or comments can also be made in the chat box, which go directly to our rock star, the moderator. In an effort to streamline the hybrid attendance, we have opted to do all the voting by electronic ballot. You should have received your voting instructions yesterday. Therefore, I will present each motion, ask for a mover and a seconder. At regular meetings, I call these movers and shakers. I may take this on for this meeting, so don't be alarmed. Therefore, I will, wait, hold on, I lost my spot, sorry. To allow for any of debate, and then you may register your votes electronically. The ballots will close at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so you may wait until after the AGM to submit your ballot. If you have any problems, Michelle, Rockstar, will be able to assist you. Once the voting platform closes, Michelle, Rockstar, will email out the audited results to the membership. So we will know by the end of the day how the results turn out. Friendly reminder that personal attacks are not welcome. They will be booed. And it will not be, and if you hear the gavel, it means absolute silence. That wasn't a mimicking, by the way. It's just showing what it looks like. It means absolute silence. Point of order. Can you also please take this moment to ensure your cell phones are on silent? This is referring to our in-house people, not our virtual people. Virtual people, you decide. We good? Barb, do you need help? Oh, or be like Barb and turn off your cell phone. It's a good life lesson too. I'll keep going, but I am certain you will figure it out, Barb. After the AGM, oh wait, who was that? Oh, jeez. After the AGM, there will be a closed session to the voting members, and the board of directors will be in a forum with Transport Canada and Pat Floyd. So I will be asking all the registered participants to leave the room. This is another benefit to being a board of director or even a chair of committees. Recruit, call out, shout out, answer in chat if we're to contact you. If you haven't done, if you haven't done so already, this, I'm sorry, is mostly for the in-house people, unless you're virtual and you don't like people, and you can't be here today, you feel free to join us if you're in the Ottawa area. If you're attending the dinner at Oko's tonight, we will need to call the restaurant to give them an update of numbers for the reservation. Again, you can do this at the break. And again, virtuals, another great reason to be here, because we like to talk to each other and have fun, right? Yeah. Before we begin, are there any questions on what I've spoken about? Either in person or virtually. Okay, we did say we'd give them a minute. Okay. Yes, I've done my job. We will now commence the AGM. Quorum required for ordinary resolutions, and we're on item 2 of the agenda if you're following along. Quorum required for ordinary resolutions is 14 members. We have 22 in attendance. The members are, first we have Chilliwack Skydiving Club, and if you're here in person, thank you, Barb. You know the drill. Put up your hand. Excellent. Be like Barb. And if you're here virtually, just we know you're here because you're actually virtual. I did get clarification. Then next we have Chaos. We have Skydive Vancouver Island. Descenders Para Club. Excuse me. Thank you. Northern High Skydivers. Thank you. Parachute Ottawa. Welcome. Skydive Toronto. Welcome. Whistler Skydiving. Online. Thank you. We have home Manitoba Sport Parachute Association. Phil, that better be you. Hi. Skydive Manitoba. Hi, Jay. Jay's the hubby. Grand Bend Sport Para Center. Thank you. Online. Niagara Skydive. Online. Hi. Ottawa Skydiving Club. Welcome, Neil. Skydive Burnaby. Online. Skydive Swoop. Online. Pacific Skydivers. Thanks, Barb. Busy Skydivers. Oh, okay. Just gonna give a little shout out. Geronimo Skydiving Team. Thanks, Brian. Hamilton Sport Para Club. Thanks, Brian. Parachutism Atmosphere. I'm sorry, I probably butchered it, so you didn't recognize it, but also online. Hi. And then parachute voltige. Hi, voltige. Excellent. Well, that's wonderful. Majority of these are actually in-house. Thank you. So quorum is present. Note a majority vote will require 18 votes. You supersede that. Please note that votes will not be tallied live. Final result of the election will be sent to all voting members once the voting application has been closed following the AGM at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. At this point, if you haven't already, I will ask the voting members to ensure that they have their ballot readily available to record their votes if you plan on following along with it. Perfect. Item 3. Introduction of BOD members, committee chairs, and office staff. This is our team. This is our team that works for us tirelessly. They're so dedicated. I'll start off with our BOD. You've already met me, Kenita Vanstone. I've been in the sport since 1999, half my life. You do the math. Vice President, we have Brian DiCenzo. Give a little wave for at least our internal folks here. Then we also have Director Jason Warren. We have Director, I'm going to go out of sequence here, Jocelyn Brunet, and then Director Gord Govin. Our other official is Treasurer Ian Flanagan, who sends his regards. Committee chairs from the CNTC, we have Barb Davies. Hi, Barb. From the CWC Comp Dev, we have our Monique Andre, but we have Danique with us today, covering for her. LTAD, we have Doreen Westgamble. Hi, Doreen. Campera, online. Hi, Anna, I miss you. IT, we have Tarek Ayub, but today we have Mr. Brian Cole here representing. Women's Initiative Committee, Alice Cooting. Judging, we have Mr. Randy Holmes. TNSC, Bill Pentney. GRC, we have Pat Floyd. And then from our office, our core being, the reason why we're here physically and in reality, Executive Director, we have Michelle Metz-Stoughton. And then we have Executive Secretary, Judy Renaud. Thanks, guys. Just thank you. Thank you. Seriously. Item 4. Now this is the business stuff, so I'll be less entertaining. The next order of business is approval of the agenda. So the motion is, and this is where we'll get ready for your hands for motioning and seconding, AKA movers and shakers. Be it resolved that the agenda be accepted as presented. Do I have a mover? And call out who you're voting for. Chaos? Chaos motioned. Do I have a shaker, AKA seconder? Please call out who you're. Thank you, Chilliwack. This motion is made by Chaos. This motion is seconded by Chilliwack. It is moved and seconded to adopt this following motion. Be resolved that the agenda be accepted as presented. Does any member wish to debate this? Checking in for our virtual folks too. Okay, seeing no. If you haven't already done so, please register your vote using Simply Voting. Item 5, declaration of any conflicts or interests. Does any member need to declare any conflicts of interest? Checking on our virtual, we're good. All right, carry on. Item 6 on the agenda, business as specified in the meeting notice. So there is no business to attend to per the meeting notice. Special business will follow later in the AGM. Item 7 on our agenda, adoption of minutes from the 2022 AGM. So motion is, be it resolved, the membership adopt the last minutes of the 2022 or 2022 AGM for CSPA held electronically on March 12th, 2022. Do I have a member who would like to move this motion? Northern High Skydivers has motioned this. Do I have a member who would like to second this motion, AKA be the shaker? Neil had his hand up. Who are you? Ottawa Skydiving. Motion made by, I've already forgotten the name, Bill. Mr. Cole made the motion for his member. This motion is seconded by Skydive Ottawa. It is moved and seconded to adopt the following motion, that be it resolved that membership adopt the last minutes of the 2022 AGM for CSPA held electronically on March 12th, 2022. Does any member wish to debate this? Any virtual friends? Thank you. If you haven't already done so, please register your vote using Simply Voting. We okay there? Thank you. Item 8, review of items tasked from the 2022 AGM. There are no items tasked from the 2022 AGM. It's like the fastest AGM ever. And then this is where all the meat and potatoes of our meeting commences. Board and committee and office reports. We will now be moving on to the select section of the AGM for board, committee, and office reports. Each representative will give a short 2-minute presentation about 2022. Once finished, if anyone has a question, please step forward to the microphone, who's here internally, to the microphone in the middle of the floor, or raise your hand online. I will now ask Michelle to start us off with some of the reports from the national office. Thank you, Michelle.
All right, I didn't have a laser pointer, so we're going to do it this way. So what I'm just going to present is some financial graphics to kind of give you guys an idea of where we're at. So bear in mind, this is financial, not necessarily full statistics. So affiliations, we've got a downward trend, but in all fairness, we've had a pretty crappy 5 years. So 2017, for those of you who don't remember, was when the Western economy crashed. So that was the first major dip that we took. 2019, Eastern Canada had absolutely horrible weather, and that was a dramatic effect on us as well. And then 2020, COVID hit. So we've got a downward trend in terms of the number of RPs that are with CSPA, but the good thing is now we're pulling back up out of COVID. And this is where we're going to start rebuilding. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about that more when we go through the budget. So we're steadying and we're climbing back up, and that's going to take some recovery. New affiliations. So basically this is skydivers who are joining the association as new skydivers. A little bit all over the map. Again, you can see the trends within those: economy, COVID, weather. They all take a hit in some capacity or another. Obviously COVID, we saw the biggest drop of new skydivers because we were all shut down. But again, we're slowly climbing back up. Ryan, button. Thank you. Expired affiliations. So what I did was I tracked people who didn't renew their affiliations. So again, kind of stagnant. These numbers actually alter every year and I update the graph periodically. So it looks like we have a massive spike in 2022, but it's basically people who decided they weren't going to skydive for the rest of the season that are going to let their membership lapse over the winter and they're going to join again next year. So that massive peak will actually lower and it'll be adjusted and reflected on next year's graph, if that makes sense. So again, it's a slightly upward trend, but what we're going to see is that trend actually start to level out. Net loss. Basically, it means CSPA is losing skydivers every year since 2014. We haven't had a positive since 2014. So part of that is on the drop zones to try to do more marketing and gain new skydivers, but part of that is on us in a way. How do we retain our existing skydivers? We're seeing less and less revenue coming in over the winter months. I think now process maybe 50 skydivers between December and March. It used to be probably about 20 times that amount. And now everyone's just shifting their affiliations to be from April to May, that time frame. So that, we make it work financially. We know that is it. But when you decide you're going to push it off and delay it, then you've now expired and you've now just decided you're going to stop jumping altogether. So that's kind of the trend that we're seeing. Temporary affiliations, this is our third year with them, and we've got a good upward trend. I have to run some new programming queries, but the biggest thing that we're seeing is a lot of people that are joining as temporaries have now actually flipped and joined CSPA as regular skydivers. So that's a good trend that we're seeing. So we might see this number go down, but actually the data will be better because they're actually changing their classification. Not all drop zones are using this ability, but for the most part, we've heard good things. So we're going to keep it rolling. By the way, feel free to ask questions at any point. COPs, again, less skydivers means less COPs. So obviously the same downward trend is going to continue. But the good thing to key is that now with COVID, we're starting to rebuild. So this downward trend will actually start to level out. This is a big breakdown, very colorful. You can see the largest trend that you can read is that the number of solos we're issuing every year is decreasing. But in exchange, the number of other licenses that we're issuing is increasing. So what that tells me is we're producing less new skydivers, but we're doing better at retaining the ones that we do have and growing them within the sport. So that's not a bad thing. It's just different data. This is just in their own graph. So again, solos and Bs and Cs are on a downward trend. But if you look without the trend, the numbers are increasing or at level. So COPs are actually pretty steady with relative to where our affiliations are at. This is a new piece of data trend that I started to look at, and it's where the gaps are. So the first column in red is basically people who joined CSPA but didn't get their solo yet. So that data point has actually started to go up, and this is the first time in 2022 where it was higher than the gap from people going from solo to A. We talked about this a little bit yesterday, and we think the biggest part of this is we're starting to see a shift in drop zones. They're getting all of their students to immediately join CSPA so they don't have to track what jump they're on. So basically the insurance kicks off once they hit jump number 10. So we're seeing drop zones just push all of their new students straight into an affiliation with CSPA. So we think that could be an explanation in the spike and why that trend is flipping. So, but again, all of this data looks at we're doing better with retention. Danny's going to speak to this a little bit later, but ratings, our actual number of courses that we've run over the last decade has actually remained steady. We're seeing more people slowly produce up the ratings. But again, since COVID, that's where that big drop was. And now we're rebuilding. Any questions on any of those data stats? Cool. Insurance claims. Somebody knock on wood for me. We have not paid an insurance claim since 2019, and I love that. Great trend. For anybody who was interested, these are the last ones since I started tracking in 2015. Key things: skydivers need to learn how to land off better. They hit parked cars, they don't do up helmets, which land on silos. Yeah, there are definitely trends within them, but again, we're doing pretty good since 2019. New news for this year, the $3 million liability insurance is going up to $5 million free of charge from our insurer. So yay. So that will apply to I think it's because we're a very good client. We pay our bills on time. And so far they like us. So they're giving us the option to increase. A big part of this is we had some drop zones that were actually purchasing extra, and a bunch of our demo jumpers were looking for extra as well. So we started to see this trend of more people asking for 5 million. So the insurer came back and said, hey, we'll just give it to you. And so let's just keep being awesome and not claiming anything. So we will be putting an announcement out in the coming weeks to all the drop zones, the members and the RPs, but everybody's going to go up to 5 million. Defense fund. This is one thing, unfortunately, we pay out multiple every year. So again, since I started tracking in 2015, if you are interested, a lot of these are basically just tandem accidents or student accidents, and it's the legal counsel to help deal with them. Pat Floyd has been instrumental in helping to deal with noise complaints, airspace issues. So we've assisted with the defense fund from those. And now the latest one that we're going to start seeing is airport access. And Pat's going to talk about that a little bit later. So since 2015, we've paid out $60,000 from the defense fund. New for this year, if you didn't already see the notice, we are changing the parameters of the defense fund. The fees that the drop zones are going to pay is going up from $250 to $300. And in exchange, we're allowing you to access another $5,000. So the payment structure is staying the same, but the first $7,500 of your invoices can be paid out at 100%. And then the next $7,500 at 50%, again, so long as the parameters of the defense fund is in excess of the $75,000. How this directly affects. So since 2015, under the existing payment structure, we only maxed out three out of 16 claims, and the average payment was $4,000. Under the new structure, only one of those 16 claims would have maxed out, and they would have increased the average payment to $4,300. So the defense fund is still going to remain healthy with this new structure is what we anticipate, but we recognize that legal fees are going up. So we wanted to reflect that with the new defense fund structure. Questions? Cool. Allison. Do you want the podium or the mic? Okay.
Find my slides.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Good.
Good morning. Bonjour. It's my French. That's my capability of French. My name is Allison, and I'm going to give the report regarding our AIM analysis and our SMS, which is a safety management system. I'm assuming we can hear me okay. I'm pretty loud. So this year for 2022, when we looked at all the AIM reports that came in, we received 93, which has been we're sitting around that 90 to 100 AIM reports that are submitted. We're still looking and encouraging to educate on why it's important for everyone to submit AIM reports, specifically the ones that you think are non-issues. So, someone has a cutaway, lands safely back at the drop zone, everything's fine. We still need an AIM report. It's information and data that is very important to our analysis, be it looking at canopy types or looking for trends. And same with incidents, someone lands and has a little sprain on their ankle, but seems to be okay, is jumping the next day. Still really important to submit an AIM report because that data is important to us. And the more we have, it allows us to do a more kind of in-depth root cause analysis. At the CSPA level, it is a high-end analysis, digging down to each drop zone. Hopefully drop zone owners are able to do that root cause analysis themselves. But if ever looking for assistance on that, we encourage people to get a hold of the technical and safety committee, and we can assist in that to identify some root causes potentially at the drop zones. So again, there was 93 AIM reports that were submitted. Our experienced skydivers and the occurrences within experienced division, which is basically everyone with an above a solo or A license, experience. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. They saw the largest increase, which increases are not a bad thing right now. We're still again in that motion where I'm trying to get people to submit AIMs and be more efficient on that. So it's about 56% increase. And we also saw an increase in our student AIM reports, which was about 35%. Tandem occurrences dropped down. And actually with tandems, we are more likely to submit an AIM report if it's a tandem than anything else. So I am usually really comfortable in the money or the amount we get for tandems, but we did see a decrease of 32%. Graph here just kind of shows the numerical stats. So I'm just going to kind of go straight into areas of opportunity, and all I can say across the board is landings, landings, landings. So with a lot of the things that we found, landing occurrences and incidences that came through tandem was 59% were all landing occurrences. 50% of the responses on the AIM or the reasons was the customers did not lift up their legs. So recommendations, I work closely, the Technical Safety Committee works closely with Strong Sigma to get recommendations. And the biggest thing is to look at your manufacturer's recommendations behind these, looking at flight cycles, how your flare performs in different areas, including, passengers' weights, different winds, terrain, temperatures, and really looking at those specific issues. And again, at the drop zone level, really identifying if you're seeing some trends with landing, look back into the kind of the training, how are we educating customers to get their legs up and that kind of stuff. So the next category is students, landings, landings, landings. 62.5% of our incidences were landing related with students. And 69% of those was related to their flaring technique. So again, looking at recommendations for our instructors, our GCIs, coaches, SSIs in the courses, really having a look at your existing way you train in the flare, especially, and getting into those patterns, how you practice it on the ground, how we are educating our students to have a more effective flare, and experienced jumpers. Landings, landings, landings. We had 56% or 57% were all landing occurrences. Interestingly, this year, what I did find is 34.5% of those were related to hazards. So this would be trees, cars, benches, other people. So it's a really interesting thing to kind of consider and just re-educating when we're talking about our, briefing our landing areas. Even if someone has, 700 or 1,700 skydives, just kind of, not getting complacent, talking about that, making sure we're all very aware that distraction phase is really important. So just being really mindful of that. And then 27.5% were related to irregular wind conditions. And those varied. So just so you know. So really good materials is there's an area in the sport canopy endorsement regarding improving your accuracy. And then in PIM 2A, talking about hazards near the ground. And just so everyone knows, this is my very condensed overview. On the CSPA website, all of the data has been published. We also have a 17-page SMS summary report. And what that does is it breaks it down more specifically of the data, really specific feedback and areas of opportunity, not only for jumpers, but also for drop zone owners, for DZSOs, coaches, instructors, riggers, packers. So I really encourage everyone to take a moment, either during your safety day or just on the drop zone, have a look at this data. It's a great educational tool. And then the other thing that I We'll note this past year, we had 5 fatalities, one being a student, 4 experienced jumpers. And yeah, it was a tough year all around. And then I just have a little slide with a wonderful quote is take the attitude of a student, never be too big to ask questions, never know too much to learn something new. Any questions? Go visit the website, go look at this data, read the reports, submit your AIM reports. Safety Day. Oh yes, there's a great brochure online too for Safety Day. Everyone should be doing Safety Day. It's just not even an option. You know, we get into complacency is a really big thing. No matter how many jumps, always be the student, you know, handle checks, gear checks, all those fun things, and get better at landing. No questions?
One comment, if I may,
Yes.
on behalf of the office. Sorry about that. On behalf of the office, I just want to mention that we're getting a lot of used or old forms being sent in for the AIMS. There is a brand new form available online that can actually be filled out online as well. So legibility is also an issue. So if you're going to write it out, make sure it's clear. And if you want to do it online, fill it online and then simply print it. Thank you.
No questions. We're good. Yay me. Look, that was fast.
Thanks, Allison. I'm just going to do this back and forth thing. Next up, we have. Yeah, and that's why I'm hesitating because I'm like, I feel like I just called you up. I'll leave it to Michelle. Thanks, Michelle.
I forgot about these. All right. Aero Club of Canada. So every organization under the Aero Club of Canada has a representative that sits on the Aero Club Board of Directors. So that is me. Not a whole lot to update this year. Canada is staying in as a class 5. So we lost a lot of membership across all the organizations. So we lowered ourselves to a class 5 country within the FAI, which means we hold less votes, but also pay less money. So the good thing is we're at the bottom end of the class 5. So we actually have opportunity for all the organizations to still grow back in their membership numbers before we have to go back to a class 4 and pay more money. So there's still lots of flexibility. The fees for this year are going to stay the same as last year. It's all based on a sliding scale. So every organization for the first 50 members pays this much per member. The next 100 members, they pay X amount, and it kind of goes up. We're the second largest organization within the Aero Club. So we pay the second largest amount of fees. So the sliding scale is relatively fair for all the organizations. And what the Aero Club did, because they're relatively healthy financially right now, is they kept the sliding scale the same, but they dropped everybody's fees by 10% again, similar to last year. A big topic of discussion within the FAI level was Russia and Belarus had their membership suspended by the FAI due to the war in Ukraine. And that continues to be the case right now. Ukraine, on the other hand, was unable to afford the cost of their membership within the FAI. So Canada, along with a bunch of other countries, actually contributed, and we put together all the membership fees to pay for Ukraine's membership. Any questions on Aero Club? ISC. So our ISC delegate is Rena Gallo. She is attending virtually, but she doesn't like to public speak, so she sent me up here instead. Yay me. But if you have any questions, she's available online to answer because I probably won't know the answers. So the ISC is a facet of the FAI, and the FAI as an entity has been going through a lot of financial issues over the last few years, and a lot of financial irresponsibility. So now the reserves are basically gone. So they are basically having to rebuild. And the two major consequences of this is that we have to start from scratch and what to do next. So right now, the ISC figured out that the best option is to actually change the sanction fees for competitors. So when competitors go to a World Championships, a World Cup, or any second class category event, they have to pay a sanction fee, and that sanction fee goes to the FAI or the ISC to pay for the judges, the director, the meet directors, right, Barb, etc. Yeah, everybody that's required to run run the competition. So the sanction fees used to be 90 euros, and now they are increasing for 2023 to 150. So unfortunately, the athletes are going to take the brunt of this cost to rebuild the FAI's irresponsibility. The unfortunate part of this is what they recognize is that there are more competitions every 2 years because the World Championships fall on a biannual pattern. So instead of keeping one sanction fee, they're actually going to increase sanction fees in years where there's less competitions to help make more money. So in 2023, it's going to be 150 euros or Swiss francs. And then the next year it could be higher because there will be less competition. So it's unfortunately going to fluctuate every year. That being said, if you have ideas on how the ISC can rebuild financially, contact me and I will put you through to Rena, because they're looking for any ideas, because we don't believe that this is the solution. Obviously, the last thing we want to do is make the athletes pay more. Oh, Rena's raised her hand. Go ahead, Rena.
Yeah, the sanction fee can either raise or lower depending on the year, depending on the whether or not it's a World Cup or a World Championship. So it's going to be a floating thing. So it could go up or it could go down. It all depends. So I just wanted to point that out. It may not go up every year. It could fluctuate.
Thanks, Rena. Just want to point out with public speaking, you're not actually seeing anything. So you could have done this. All we hear is you in the speaker system in the room. The next thing is Handyfly. So some of you guys might have heard this. The French Federation launched an initiative called Handyfly in the tunnels, and it was basically a way to introduce skydiving to the disabled. And it's become a growing thing within the EU and the IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee, and the International Paralympic Committee. And this initiative has actually grown to outdoor skydiving as well. So there's actually some really cool stuff. If you read Rena's report, there's some links to videos, and basically they're trying to grow the sport to people who are disabled. And it's really interesting to see how that can actually happen within an outdoor environment at our drop zones. The last thing is the ISC published a bunch of new rule changes for international competitions. Our judges committee has taken those changes and looked at how they can be incorporated within the Canadian rules. So stay tuned. The 2023 Canadian competition rules are going to be updated. Any questions for the ISC? For anybody interested, these are the competitions for 2023. So the World Championships for indoor are going to Slovakia very soon, in a month. I don't think we have a team going, right, Barb? No. World Cup of Style and Accuracy going to Italy. Wingsuit World Cup going to Czech Republic. Outdoor World Cup for AE and FS is in Norway. I think we have a lot of teams that are super excited about that. And the World Cup of CP is going back to Arizona. 2024 World Championships going to be a big year. The Indoor World Cup is now going to China because Belarus is no longer allowed to host it. And the World Championships for Style, Accuracy, and CF are going back to Czech Republic. And everybody else is going to Israel. Yeah. They were in Arizona, but I'm guessing they haven't told you yet. I heard, well, a lot of athletes. There was discussion, but maybe nobody's decided they can afford to go to Norway. Anybody who's watching, if you want to go, you need to contact Barb. All right, Anna. Anna, can we loop in Anna?
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, just a little update from Campera. So last year in 2022, we ran 5 issues. each of which were 48 pages, with the exception of the August-September issue, which was 52. Reader participation continued to be another really strong year after the COVID. We had over 95% of submissions were from jumpers who wrote in at random, while the remaining 5% were sought out. So either usually over email or comments made from an event on Facebook where I did some outreach. Victor continues to be our dedicated graphic designer, while Ned manages our advertising, and she still is doing an excellent job at continuing to search for additional advertisers now that we are fully digital as well as print. And of course, I would be remiss if I forgot to mention the translators. We still have an exceptional translating team. Super, super happy to have this relationship as we bring in on board a couple new ones and continue with our traditional translators who've worked with us over the years. So it's been really good, and Campera wouldn't be Campera without them. And things to look forward to in 2023. We already have the April-May issue in full swing. Oh, sorry, January-March issue in full swing. It's actually going to be a bit bigger. We have a lot of CSBA updates, so this will be our 52-pager issue of the year. So get ready for that one. And overall, looks like it's going to be another great year. We already have so many submissions, and I'm just looking forward to continuing being the dedicated editor. So thank you all. Short and sweet update from me.
Thanks, Anna, and thanks for not going away. We love you. All right, next up, we have Mr. Pat Floyd with the GRC committee.
Hi, I'm Pat Floyd. This year's been busy, good and bad. The fatality issues have been bad, but the NAV Canada issues have been bad. But dealing with Transport Canada and the FAA, we are seeing very good improvement. Seeing a lot of good work out of Transport Canada, redoing the regulatory stuff. The exemption that we currently operate on is going to be renewed with a better regime, I think, and it will be passed or pushed forward as the new regulations. Waivers and legal issues. Pleased to say the waivers are getting better, and the reaction from lawyers on the other side is they don't like the waiver. We saw one case just disappear. The lawyer said, "I'm not going to take a run at it. I do waiver law." The guy said, "I do waiver law. I'm not doing it. I can't do it on contingency. It's going to cost me 60 grand to fight it. And if I lose, which I might, it's not worth the investment." So waivers are working. We just have to keep them tight, have to keep records to make them provable. The tandem and youth issue is still there. We have to look at that and keep on top of that. I'm not opposed to underage skydiving. Actually, I'm very much in support of it on my own hat, but it's a different legal regime and you have to be careful with it. That's all on that one. Lightweight data recorders, nothing really happened on that one. One aspect of that, which I'm going to deal with, is the SMS issue for 702 operators is reviving. It wasn't on the books when it came out initially and they dropped it for 702s. It's coming back. As the AIM evolves more into an SMS, I think we need to push that and get the data and support it, because Transport Canada will accept any SMS as long as it meets the criteria. And if the CSBA SMS meets the criteria, then you don't need to generate your own SMS and all that paperwork. So as the SMS is evolving to capture more data and more issues, airport issues, aircraft issues, then Transport Canada will respect that. One thing with SMS, with transport, if you have an active and enforceable SMS, they will not seek regulatory enforcement against you by policy. So the stronger and the better your SMS is, the more regulatory protection you have. Airport access is an issue as airports become fiscally bound or basically bankrupt, they're seeking money from everybody, and that's an issue. They're targeting whatever pocket they can pick, and skydiving is one of the ones they're trying to pocket they're trying to pick. So it is an issue. It's getting worse. And succession planning, my suggestion, I don't know if the board is, as SMS evolves, my role in GRC should be subsumed by the TNSC in the SMS, and that's where I think it should go. Issues I'll still be around to deal with, but that's my view on that one. Any questions? Oh,
You were talking about the lightweight data recorders. What's going on with that? Like, is that,
well, we supported COPA, and because they were pushing that, Transport wanted that on all commercial aircraft. And we pushed to oppose it or make it a cheaper alternative. God only knows what they've done with it. We're waiting for them.
yeah, it originally had a date of 2024 or something, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're going through the data and working what they're going to do with it.
Okay, thanks.
More questions? Next up.
Next up, we have Doreen with the long-term athlete development. Doreen.
So we have a small budget with the LTAD committee for athlete development funding when we collaborate with WIC to deal with the applications that come in. The criteria for the applications aligns with flight plan, which the LTAD committee is responsible for. You can find flight plan on the CSPA website under the Learn tab and go to LTAD. And that connects you to, then there's a link to the flight plan. So the athlete development funding focuses on the stages, stage 3, learn to fly, through to stage 7, active for life. And I encourage anyone and everyone to apply for the athlete development funding. We had probably, what did I say? We had 12 applications for 2022, and they encompassed a variety of competitive disciplines. The applications need to relate to a competitive discipline. It's to encourage skill development in the competitive disciplines. So events, skills camps, teams, individuals, developing their skills related to the competitive disciplines. That's what the athlete development funding is for. We are hopeful that we'll be able to have some skills camps start again at the tunnels. Prior to COVID, we had 1 or 2 camps annually. We had a very good working relationship with the tunnels in the east, and they were very successful skills camps. Since COVID shut things down and then change in ownership, we have to rebuild that relationship and recognize that the tunnels have certain criteria for their operation, and working with them to meet what CSPA criteria is for coaching skill development. So we've started negotiating that. So we're hopeful that there might be something for 2023. That's basically it for LTAD. I encourage you to go to the website and look up flight plan. A lot of work went into developing that document. There's lots of great information in there for everyone, from students on through to people active for life, coaches, judges, everyone involved in the sport. This is my last AGM as chair of the Long-Term Athlete Development Committee. So it has been my pleasure to serve everyone involved in the association and work with my committee members. meet wonderful people at the board level, and I encourage all registered participants to get involved in CSPA. We're all volunteers, committee members, chairs, board members, they're all volunteers. So it's only as strong as your participation. So please get involved.
Thanks, Doreen. We're all very sad, but we'll take a moment to be sad together a little later in this presentation. Sorry, Barb's distracting. Even to tailgate on what Doreen was talking about, everything in the flight plan is relevant to your spot in your skydiving life / career. The skills grid even follows that significantly. Oh, look, we do have a question. Oh, can you please, yeah, we're all attacking her. Sorry, Jen. Just come to announce who your membership is and your question.
Yes, my name is Jennifer. Nice to meet you. And I'm from Skydive Toronto. I'll go on my tippy toes. Everyone else is much taller. I have a quick question for Doreen, actually. I'm just curious for how many years you have served CSPA and skydivers in Canada, because I think that's very important to acknowledge.
Thanks, Skydive Toronto. I'm sorry. We do have a special presentation. No, it's okay. We'll address all of that in the upcoming. So don't steal my thunder.
Thank you.
But no, we do all want to know this. We do have a special presentation for that.
Appreciate it.
No, thank you. Seriously. Thank you. Yeah, okay.
I will say, when I started my involvement with CSPA, my hair was not this color.
Allison, we have standing up here to talk about the Women's Initiative Committee. Allison.
Hello again, bonjour. Trying to practice my French. Oh, those aren't my notes yet. So I'm Allison and I am the chair for the Women's Initiative Committee. But in all honesty, over the past 4 years, this has been an incredible team pushing hard and pushing forward and just big plans, big projects. We're an amazingly diverse team with a lot of different types of experience and backgrounds. And yeah, so I am as strong as my entire team. So it's fantastic. So yes, we work with LTAD as far as funding different skills camps, events. Our focus as well with LTAD is on the development for competition type events in the sense of getting you there, if you will. And we focus on women in the sport. We ended up, the applications have been not very strong over the last few years. I think COVID obviously hit that. Drop zone owners not really sure what to do and how to put on events and those kind of things. So we're hoping to see a lot more applications come in. If you're unsure of whether your event or your skills camp or anything like that would fall under it, just contact us. We will definitely help you figure that out. So we ended up funding about just over $1,400 towards women in our sport and these activities. We have a big presence in Canberra. Thank you, Anna. And continue to write articles. And we also welcomed in 2 new members on our committee this past year. For our plans, we kind of have some long-term plans and short-term plans, but we definitely want to focus more on the funding opportunities nationwide in multiple disciplines, more skills camps. So just having a greater reach in that area. We're currently working on updating the mentorship program. So we're just assessing our current mentorship program that we have and looking at ways to build on it and improve it. Obviously, we'll continue to publish in Canberra. A really heavy focus for us as well, reaching out through this year into the next, is continual education for opportunities for women in our sport. And this will include some of our barriers, the successes, and just, trying to support each other in a very diverse world. The most exciting thing, however, right now on the agenda is the WIC team has been working so diligently and really hard. We are excited to announce the very first virtual skydiving conference being held on April 1st. This is an invite to everybody, men, women, DZOs, instructors. We want everybody there. It's April 1st. It's going to start at 7:30 in the morning Pacific time. 10:30 Eastern time, and we'll go till 2 o'clock in the afternoon Pacific time, 5 o'clock Eastern time. We are, I mean, I can't even tell you the awesomeness of people. Well, not at all, not excited at all here, but we are blessed. For those of you who have never heard of Project 19, get on the internet. Anyways, Project 19 was a huge event that happened. We are internationally down in Arizona to acknowledge the women's suffrage movement, 100 years of the women's vote in the US. However, it was an international event that was supported and sponsored by the Women's Skydiving Network. Anyways, we had 6 Canadian participants on that, and it was the attempt was a 100-way head down, all women. I'm sorry, I suck at skydiving, but it was craziness to see, like, I'm watching the videos and my butt was puckering going, oh my God, but phenomenal. And I'm not even going to give it away, but we have the panelists, we have a panelist conversation with some of the Canadian women that were on that. We have mentors and competitors in our sport: Caitlin Compton, wingsuiting; Kelsey Fry, canopy piloting; Carmen for canopy formation. Oh my gosh, there's so many more. Just so many powerful women from across Canada that are going to be presenting on panelist conversations. We have a really good presentation regarding mental health, opportunities and growth and change in our sport and at the drop zone. How do we change language of what's happening? Talking about some really sensitive stuff, but just empowering people to move forward. And I'm super excited. I've been in touch with the Women's Skydiving Network, which is kind of more on an international platform. For those of you who do not know, Melanie Curtis, she's a rock star. Anyways, she is also giving a presentation that we were blessed to actually see at the PIA this past year. So she'll be joining us. So again, I mean, the efforts between my whole entire team has been incredible into this. I just strongly encourage everybody to attend. We are so pumped, so excited. Tell your friends. There's going to be people from actually other countries as well attending. Skydiving, that's what it's about. It's going to be so exciting. I don't even know how to add any more enthusiasm to that, but you're probably going to have to go in there.
I would love to attend. However, we're going to be operating. Is there any possibility that it might be recorded? Please.
Can I answer? Yeah. Oh, yay. I didn't know if I had to wait for permission to answer. Yes, we are recording it. It is a free event and an amazing opportunity to share all of the stuff. So yes, it will be recorded. And yeah, the other thing really important to note, it's actually bilingual. Guess what? We're in Canada. We have French, we have English. We're going to have people asking questions in French and English. So yeah, we're embracing the diversity around Canada. This is what it's about. So, but yes, it will be recorded. For more information about it, we're going to be pumping out a lot of stuff in the next week. Specifically, it's through a Zoom meeting, but just head on to CSPA's website. It's actually right on the front page. Check it out. Come have fun and be totally inspired. Questions? No? Yay.
I'm assuming there were no other questions for Allison for the Women's Initiative Committee. It's on April 1st, but it is not a joke. It is happening. Is totally happening. Next up from our Technical and Safety Committee, we have Mr. Bill Pentney.
Hello all, I'm Bill Penny, Chair of the Technical Safety Committee. We had a really busy year, especially after coming off COVID for 2 years. We are first back to face-to-face meeting. We actually did it in conjunction with the CWC, which was incredible because we actually have to share a lot of information between the two committees. It was held in Calgary, and I think we're really going to do that from year to year when we have in-face meetings. It's actually nice to have an in-face meeting here. A lot of the sidebars, we've accomplished a lot this weekend also. We trained 55 riggers with in 15 different courses at all levels. So there was rigger B's taught. There was a couple conversions taught to both rigger B and rigger A1, and a lot of rigger A and A1 courses. Okay. We also go ahead. We completed off the rigger aviation rating. For those of you who don't know, we developed a rating. So pilots, glider clubs and aerobatic clubs, they can actually pack their own. So we give them a 4-day course on rounds and both if we have a square pilots rigs, and we run them through just a packing course for aviation, right? It takes the load off us. It also allows them to support their glider club, right? And we've been writing it over the last 2 years, and we actually just did the pilot course, and we're running another one here in a couple of weeks. And it's been very successful. So what do we have planned? Well, we've been working on training manuals for 5 years. Okay. We're trying to have a Canadian inputted rigger handbook, right? It's in the works. It takes a lot of time to write these manuals, and we're one step at a time, but it is coming along. Okay, if you haven't heard, we are going to have to revalidate our rigger ratings. Okay, as of your membership, when you renew your membership in 2024, you will have to revalidate it. This revalidation, right, is going to require a signature from drop zone owner or safety officer or another rigger. I really need to put emphasis on it. If you are signing someone's revalidation, you need to do your due diligence and make sure they're rigging. The idea of this revalidation is to keep us honest. Okay, just like all the people, the skydiving instructors, they have to get revalidated, and we felt the need that we need to be current and revalidated, right? So if you are signing someone off, please do your due diligence and make sure that they're current. Okay.
Bill, I'm going to elaborate a little bit on this. The announcement is not actually on it yet. This is the
Okay.
So it is going in the January to March issue of Campera, which is why it's so large that you just heard from Anna. So that announcement's coming out in Campera. Once Campera is released, we will target it with another announcement through the email system and everything. So that is the first official announcement of the system. Yeah, just a heads up. That's why you haven't seen anything yet.
Perfect. So sorry to correct me. So we have been working on AED analysis, right? Surveys, finding from other countries and what they do with rules and regulations about automatic activation devices. The board of directors has not approached us yet, but if they do approach us to recommend whether it be mandatory or not, we will be ready. I'm sure there was a couple of surveys put out, if I'm not mistaken. And but we're being proactive on this. There's been no word from the board of directors yet, but it's a proactive tasking we've had. And okay, the big one, right? The rigger rating, right? So I want to start off saying the FAA have always had these rules in place, and it's not against Canadian riggers, it's against foreign riggers, period, right? I've been lucky enough. So this alert came out last June, right? And all that happened was the FAA has instructed USPA to have their drop zones enforce, okay, foreign rigger repacks, right? We were actually pretty proactive on this as soon as this happened. Mind you that when you work with governments, things take time, all right? A couple of us have had now 4 or 5 meetings in face and Zoom meetings with the FAA and USPA. We have USPA behind us, helping us out. The PIA is on our side, helping us out. And we did a lot of discussing of which route and which avenue and how do we actually address the FAA to get our rigor rating, okay? There was talk about joining all the countries that are interested. There was talk about, but the way it was decided was we're going to be the test bed, right? And again, please understand, this isn't going to happen overnight, but we're making a lot of progress, right? We're in the process of cleaning up our proposal, right? It's going to go back through, pardon me, am I doing all right or? Okay, so the proposal is going to go back through USPA to approve it and then off to the FAA, right? Again, with the backing of USPA and the PIA, which is a big thing, right? Now, this is pretty much self-explanatory. If you have questions, I will answer them, but I don't know anything more than this, right? The gentleman that we've been working with USPA and FAA, they are very positive that this is going to happen. All right. But they're worker bees. They're not the decision makers. Right. And this is, again, it's government. It's going to take some time, but we are doing our best as quick as we can to get this resolved. Right. So I will take any questions, but other than that, I really have no more information. All good. Okay. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks, Bill. That was great. Thank you so much for all of that. Next up with the CWC, Danny Grant. I really want to call you, but Danique. Oh. Go ahead.
Of course you would come watch me. My name's Danny. I'm not the chair of the CWC. Monique is. Hi, Monique. I did not make these slides either, so let's go through them. The CWC was, as always, really busy last year. We're going to be busy coming into this next year. Got a lot of projects on the go and some hurdles to deal with. I think everyone is aware we lost Jeff Dean this year, and in terms of capacity, that sets us way back. So we're doing our best to navigate that and work through it. But last year, as we saw earlier with the other stats, we ran 37 courses. It's a little bit below our usual average, but it's pretty steady. We're keeping busy with our LFs, and to that regard, we have 4 new C1 LFs. Existing LFs are also progressing through their ratings to continue teaching courses. This is helping support our capacity. This year, we are training 6 new LFs in Calgary, and in the following year, we'll be having another LF seminar out east, probably looking at 4 to 6 new candidates then as well. So we're always looking to build up our capacity here. To that regard, if anyone is interested in going down that path, or you know someone who you feel would be a good LF, always reach out to us because we're always looking for new talent. In terms of project stuff, the Coach 3 Free Fly portfolio is finally out and published. That was Jeff Dean's last big project to be completed, and we're all very thankful for that. So that means all of our first 3 Coach 3 programs are complete, translated, ready to go. We have had 1 successful new C3 push through the system. And again, if people are interested in it, all the information is online. Please reach out to us. It's there to support the community. We met, as Bill said, this winter to do all of our work. We've started in on PIM 2A to give it a fresh update. I believe it was from 2009. Anyone who's opened it knows it needs some love, and we are giving it that love. Hopefully by the end of this year, we will have that ready to go. And I hope Monique's not staring at me for overpromising things. In terms of the COP exams and requirements, minor clarifications were made on the wording in the forms, but no major changes this year. So C2s and SSEs, you don't have to rememorize new things. And yeah, no, we met with the TNSC in Calgary in November, and it was very, very productive. Going back to the stats, just seeing it looks like we are getting less and less candidates each year, but if you stare at it long enough, as I've had the pleasure of, it's pretty consistent through the year. So we are maintaining our numbers, but I do encourage everyone to consider coaching ratings. There's lots to learn. There's lots to contribute. What are we doing this year? I think I've said all of this, because I'm not reading my slides as I go. So thanks for bearing with me. One thing we will be working with the TNSC on is considering clarifying what it means to be current with your COPs. So riggers have to remain current, coaches have to remain current. There's some very loose wording in the PIMS about, hey, we should all stay current, but there has been questions asked about, hey, can we clarify what does it mean to be current as an ACOP, BCOP, CCOP, DCOP? Oh yes, I'm doing comp dev as well. Any question on the CWC portion? Great. Comp dev, pretty slow going, not a lot of news, no courses run. We do have one candidate out there who is interested in becoming a comp dev coach, and so we are working with that individual. Yes, I'm fully reading the slide. I was not prepared for it. Yeah, it is. Okay, calm down. This is not my committee. And just as always, we're continue supporting everyone and working with the NCCP and developing new LFs and trying to keep everything moving forward. Thanks. No questions? Awesome.
Thanks, Danique. Really appreciate you here. All right, next up, we have from the CNTC, we have Barb Days. 2 minutes, Barb.
It'll be a little longer than that. Is this under here? Is one of these for me? Oh, okay. Well, that's okay. I actually have a presentation prepared. I know that's surprising to you, but okay. Barb Davis, chair of the CNTC. I've been on the CNTC for 29 years and chair actually for 17 years. I counted last night. It wasn't 16, 17. So it's been kind of a long time. Following on from my actual report in last year on that horrible television Zoom box, at the end of the year in 2021, we went to Dubai, the Canadian teams for FS, one person for CP and accuracy. And the Canadian team is catastrophic and they won a silver medal. Our solo CP competitor, it was his second official competition, at the end of the first round, he was tied for first place with 5 other very incredible CP guys. It went a little bit downhill from there, but he still finished very, very well, very well. So really proud of them. The accuracy people, as usual, did the best they could, and we're just a great team to be together. So it was a wonderful competition. It was very refreshing after 2 years of very little happening. And it was well worth the trip, but the travel was diabolical. So anyway, that finished some people for traveling anywhere for a while. The second thing is the Russia and Belarus question. That was something very, very important to the members of the CNTC. It's a little emotional for me too, but they band together and asked the board to please, please support the FAI in this very important thing. And it's ongoing, but I must tell you, it has seriously affected the skydiving community internationally because the Russians and the Belarusians, they had lots of government money. They sent lots of people to all the meets, and hence the financial hit on the ISC and therefore the FAI has been quite large. And following on with that, it seems that some of those people who were supporting that initiative are pulling away from it. I think it's sad that money talks, right? So, but there's a further thing. We had originally Russia breaking water rules, the anti-drug rules, and then we had them doing what we think is an unfair aggression on a sovereign state. And then the third thing is they haven't paid their dues anyway. So, you know, it's ongoing, and hopefully one day it'll have a very happy conclusion, the way we think it should go, not the way they think it should go. So it's very important, and it's very important to our athletes because competing internationally is all about making friendships and connections. So it was pretty heartfelt. And thank you to the board for making that very bold step. Also in 2021, we had nationals at Voltige, and they very bravely put in a bid to host them in this year. So we, of course, negotiated with them last year. They did an excellent job of hosting the nationals. Excellent hosts, provided everything we could ask for. Excellent meet director who actually really did know what he was doing, and not dissing anybody in the past, but this guy is a professional, not was, and he's going to be the meet director again. So hopefully building on that experience. The attendance at the nationals was pretty good considering the travel restrictions with COVID and everything else. So all disciplines were represented, and we had, of course, a selection meet for the team. So for the teams, I should say, for this last year. That's why going backwards and forwards, nothing in our, or very little in our mandate is ever cut and dried. Here it's done, check it off, move on. It's rolling through each year after year. So yeah, I could actually name out all the competitors to you, which will end up in my written report if you ever get it. But FS was Catastrophe, AE was Coralie Boudreau and Benoit Lemay. CP, there are 8 people who were chosen for the team. CF, the team that was chosen or that won was Pararescue, but they didn't want to go to compete in Eloy. So they asked that we offer the placing to the next teams, the other 2 teams, because although they weren't eligible because they didn't meet the minimal requirements, Pararescue felt it would be very good for their training and to give them exposure to a good competition. And although they came last, their average increased by, I don't know, 250%. So I think that they've performed pretty well and as well as we expected. The CP guys, I'm not going to go through the name. It's the first time we sent a team that was a full team. We were allowed 8 people, and we had 8 people. It's the first time since Canopy Pilot entered our realm of thought in 2005, I think, or 2003. At any rate, they all qualified for the team fund as well. So not just qualifying to go to the meet. Oh, all except Joey Allen, who unfortunately had an accident in the first round and had to withdraw. But the rest all qualified for the team fund. And that makes me think that what we've been doing to encourage, not only encourage people to go forward, but to make it very clear for them, it's not a holiday. It's a competition and you have to perform. And we have a special entry system for that. If people either don't qualify at the nationals because they can't go, or they're injured or something, there is a way that they can be selected to the team, and it's covered in the national selection national teams manual. And I'd be happy to answer questions about that to anybody if they want. WTC Nationals. Okay. I want to talk about the team fund just very briefly because it's something we're always looking at and always hoping for. The team fund is like a trust fund, so it is always supposed to become more valuable, and it's paid out interest and income, which mostly we have just interest, which, you know, isn't a lot. Well, because of the Mondial in Russia, that only one person went. Mondial was supposed to be in 2020. It was pushed to 2021. We had big conversation with athletes, and in the end, only one of our entire delegation really went. Two actually wanted to go, but only one really actually went. So of course we couldn't pay out $40,000 to him. It would be unfair. So we negotiated what we felt was successful, and he got a team fund payout there. So that was Joey Allen. And so unfortunately that he had a very disappointing accident this past year. Like I say, this year, everybody except the CF team qualified for the team fund. So overall, I think that everybody's doing pretty good. And in fact, when you say pretty good, Sven Giuseppe, our one canopy pilot, is the overall world champion in canopy piloting. And he also was the champion in distance. So that's a pretty big deal when Canada, with very little resources to support athletes, actually end up with a gold medal champion. So congratulations to Sven all around. Thank you for that. I'm pretty moved by that too, because I've known Sven since he did the cystic fibrosis jump for roses or whatever it was called way back when he was a skydiving puppy. And it's a long road to being a gold medalist. Yeah, so my last official task for 2022 was the fiscal year of 2022 was paying out the team fund. And the year prior, it was decided that we paid Joey just one amount that would be average for a person that would get it if there was a full delegation. And so then the committee decided they wanted all the rest that was eligible for that year be rolled forward to 2022. So 2022, the athletes got the money from cycle, the cycle that's 19 and 20, and the funding from the cycle that's 2019 or 2020 and 2021. So they really got a double payout this year. It was relatively generous from our point of view. I'm not sure if they thought it was relatively generous, but considering the cost of going, but anyway, that's what they got. And so we're back on track in what we get for the 2 cycles or the 2 years that go to the next team fund, which will be 2024. So going forward from that, Joe Ablett's taken over the, I know I'm over 2 minutes, but going forward, Joe Ablett has taken over the responsibility for updating the records manual and for what's the word? I was going to say acknowledging, but approving the record claims with the documents, et cetera, et cetera. So anything regarding records goes to the office, goes to Joe, and then goes back to the office with and they'll produce the certificates, et cetera. And another important thing we talked about, we had a request from a very reputable skydiver about the speed skydiving event, which I'm sure you've all heard of, and it's fairly popular around the world. They wanted to know, this person wanted to know if we would support that discipline at our nationals. As with all requests from competitors, we took it seriously. Amongst ourselves, we talked, and all the people on the committee are really experienced skydivers, a lot of jumps there. And so we decided to liaise with the TSC because of our concerns about the event. And that was thank you to Bill and his members for supporting us in that. And we had, going forward, we decided we won't support it at our nationals. We're not comfortable with the discipline. It's not that the people are unsafe or anything else. It's about the equipment that's being used that it might not survive a jump. So anyway, we've decided, no, we're not going to support it, but it doesn't mean we won't support athletes that want to go and train and do it. They can become a member of, we can send somebody to a world meet competing in skydiving by our special entry program, which is for things that we actually don't actively go after, let's say. Okay, and speed skydiving, of course, 2024, there'll be a new team selection at this year's nationals. It's Czech Republic for accuracy and CAP, and Israel for all the other events. And there's more information on the FAI website about any of those. And we will be contacting competitors who are selected from this year's nationals, and anybody else who would like to go, don't give up, because we might have spare spaces. And if you can do the special entry, you could be able to go. So I think that's all I had to say, and except finally, I will be stepping aside as chair as of the end of this meeting, of the chair of the CNTC. I don't expect to disappear. I'd like to stay on the committee to help for a year to help a transition, and then there'll be more information on that coming when the board's discussed what they're going to do. And I think, did I miss anything? No. Did I have to say those things? Can those people see it all? Okay, so I hope I didn't miss anything. And it's been really a privilege to serve everybody. And I'm done. Okay. You're welcome. Oh, sorry. I think, yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thanks again, Barb. And just to reiterate, she's stepping down as chair, but she's still on the committee. So this is not a retirement. This is not a going away. She'll still be actively involved. All of our athletes truly, truly enjoy and advocate for her presence. They do. We do have a hand up for the virtual. Oh, we have Rena who actually wants to say something. May not be a question,
no.
but let's hear it.
No, I just wanted to ask Barb, did you say that there was nobody going to Slovakia this year? I just wanted to double check.
No, I didn't say that. Oh,
Oh.
I said that I don't think. I'm going to reply to your email of yesterday when I'm done here, but
Okay.
I don't know yet. I
Okay.
don't know yet, but I should know within the next week.
Okay, no, I just
Okay.
wanted to check because, yeah.
Yeah, I
Ron was
know,
asking
because they need the numbers of countries, so
Yeah.
I don't think so. But there is some there's some indoor skydiving competitions coming up here, and I suppose it's kind of too late for them, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
well, we can
I'll
keep
just
them
let-
in mind for future.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
just let Ron know that I'll have an answer sometime next week.
Okay, yeah,
Okay,
thanks.
Thanks, Barb.
Any questions for Barb? CNTC, Competition and National Team Committee? No, excellent. Then I will continue on with Mr. Randy Holmes with our judging committee.
Thank you. As Ganina said, I'm Randy Holmes, Chairman of the Judging Committee. I'll make my comments brief. The judging community as a whole is relatively stable right now in that the judging committee is actually 4 people, and they're the same 4 people that we've had for a few years now. As far as judges is concerned, we have a total of 10, and they're all active with a minimum of 1 national rating each, sort of thing. So that's good news. As far as the regular business goes, the rules were mentioned. They were up in 2022. They were all updated. We go through that process annually. Probably the newest thing that we're spending a little bit of time on is in fact, the procedures that we're going through that are outlined in PIM 4E, dealing with things that are associated to either remote judging or online judging. And that's something that's started up and becoming more and more prevalent in the last couple of years. It's driven principally on the fact that the on-time system is now available online. So it allows judges to effectively stay at home and judge remotely certain competitions. It's a little bit limited in that it's right now designed to do only FS. You can manipulate it a little bit and do CF if you want, but the other video type disciplines that we go through have to be done on a different type of system, so we can't generally do them remotely. So we're looking to leverage that as far as how we can use it to do our judges seminar, that we do annually. As far as the current issues, the judge rating currency challenges that we've had in the past will remain because of the number of competitions that we have and the progression. Although I would like to say in 2022 was a relatively good year in the sense that we had 8 judges participate in 16 different competitions, both in Canada and internationally. So the activity is out there and it's starting to ramp up a little bit more now that we're pulling ourselves out of COVID. As I mentioned, the online judging, we did a bit of I'll say it's a trial, but 3 of us judges did a little bit of work with Australia over the last year. They had lower level competitions that they wanted to try this process out. We wanted to get involved with it because we want to learn about the tool, the online tool, and it worked quite well for those things. So we're looking at how we're going to incorporate that in other things that we do to help us along the way. And that should support the issues that we have with our currency, or the progression. And it's also going to help cut the cost to some extent and hopefully generate smaller competitions in Canada. Specifically, for example, we expect to have 2 indoor competitions in Canada this year, one of them coming up in May. And we're looking to try and have 2 panels of judges judging that, because for those that don't know, doing an indoor competition can be very intense. You get lots of skydivers doing things very quickly, and it's not easy for the judges to keep up to the pace of what they can do in the tunnel. Previous ones we've done have saw the judges still in the tunnel upwards of midnight trying to catch up with all of the jumps. And the last competition that Calgary had, it was even beyond that. So the next competition that they're going to do in Calgary coming up in May, we're going to try and set up 2 panels to run it, and we'll be doing it remotely. So this also helps the host, either drop zone or tunnel, in the costs that they have to put out for the judges because they're going to stay at home. We may have generally at least 1 judge on site, maybe 2, depends on the situation. So it's a sort of a thing that we believe we're going to see a lot more of in the future. And it's good news for us, and it should cut the costs for a number of things. Along those same lines, the last item I have on my list here is the judges qualifying course. We used to run that effectively 3 to 4 days in a specific location. Any of the candidates that wanted to become judges, they would be asked to fly in. They have to pay for their own accommodations and things like that. The last one we ran was a number of years ago. And what we're looking at doing is potentially splitting that course up into a virtual component where the candidates could do it online at home, some of which would be using the online tool that we have now. And then a practical portion, which would be done again, coinciding with a competition, and most likely nationals, because that would be the biggest competition, the best opportunity. So we can capitalize on that. The bonus for that is that it's going to reduce the initial cost to the candidates, so they don't have to effectively do that type of thing twice. And depending on how that competition is going, we may be even able to subsidize their coming to that to participate and get some experience to some extent. So we'll look at all those options and start moving forward. Those 10 skydivers I mentioned, some of them are young, some of them are not so young. So we need to start looking at our pool. We don't want to have too many because we just don't have enough competitions to keep them progressing. So it's just it's a fine balance of having just enough to meet all the needs, but not too many so that they're sitting around not getting the opportunities and then become disgruntled and decide that they don't want to be a judge anymore. So that's all I have. Are there any questions?
There is a question that came in online. So if people are interested in doing a judge's course, you can either contact Randy directly or you can contact the office and we will forward you to Randy.
Great, thank you.
Fantastic. We are now finalizing our item 9 of our agenda. So thank you to everyone. I think it's easy to see our committees have been wonderfully busy in the past year with many new initiatives for us to look forward to. Should you want to get more information, again, website, it's actually a plethora of information and updated info for you. Contact the office if you need just a quick email. They'll send you to whoever you need to get more information from. The motion is to be it resolved that all reports be accepted as presented. Do I have a member who would like to move this motion? Busy, skydive motions. Do I have a member who would like to second this motion? Senders, motion is made by Fizzy, motion second by Descenders. It is moved and seconded to adopt the following motion that be it resolved that all reports are accepted as presented. Does any member wish to debate this? We're good online. Excellent. Then if you haven't already done so, please register your vote using Simply Voting. Guess what? It's break time. Thank goodness. We're taking 15 minutes for the people in the in-house. Snacks are still visible. There's still coffee, tea, decaf. Virtual people, this is what you're missing. Take 15 minutes, come on back. We're looking at, let's say 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll see you then. Testing, testing. We are now at one. What time? It's currently 1:04. I lied apparently, or I'm very generous and I gave you extra time, and extra 4 minutes. We're going to resume our meeting so that way we can finalize everything. And then, okay, I got it. Thanks, friends. Welcome back. Hi, virtual persons. Welcome back. Again, should you have any questions, chat them, place them in the chat for our moderator, Rockstar Michelle. And of course, if there's any questions from the floor, please just raise your hand and I'll call upon you. We're going to continue on with the second portion or the second half of our meeting. All of the numbers. So I am going to call up Michelle to go over our financial statements. We'll discuss a point auditor and then a budget. And so the floor is yours, Michelle.
All right. Normally Ian does this, so I apologize. I will do my best to answer questions, but if I don't have the answer, then I will defer the question. So financial statements, if you guys didn't get a copy, there's some on the registration table. Overall, we're starting with the statement of operations. Solid year. Revenues were up about 55,000, which was primarily due to, again, an increase of affiliations and drop zone memberships as we come out of COVID. Overall, higher revenues from last year, mainly because we took in the registration fees for the World Championships, which is actually a equal output because then we just pay it back out. But the regulations for most World Championships is the payment has to come from one and it has to come from the NAC. So we take in the money from the athletes and then we spit it out. So it looks like we had more revenue, but it was a little bit partially because of an increase of affiliations and then the giant chunk of the WPC registrations. The large miscellaneous revenue that you see of 12,000, that is a result of donations that were not necessarily receipted in this year. So they were basically the surrender value of a life insurance policy and unrealized gain on investments. And specifically the John Smith Memorial Fund from a few years ago. The only major decrease in grants, which is, still in revenues. The major decrease that you'll see was grants. So we had 9,000 in 2021. Basically CAC, which is the Coastal Association of Canada, they were giving away extra funding for COVID specific things. So we benefited as a result of that. And this year we're back to our normal $3,000 funding. Expenses. They look higher, but again, it's because we actually returned to regular operations, and specifically meaning our committees went back to meeting in person and saw some great things come out of that. And then obviously just in general, operating expenses cost more for us to operate the organization compared to the past. One expense I do want to highlight is a $10,000 defense fund claim that's paid out of the operating fund. So we had a drop zone who maxed out their access to the defense fund and came to us with a one-time request to contribute to a settlement that they were facing. Again, I say this is a one-time. We don't anticipate doing this again. We consulted with legal counsel, the beautiful man over there, and we came to the conclusion that we would contribute to the settlement that the drop zone was giving. And the argument was that by us contributing, it meant that they couldn't also come back against us. So it showed that they had maxed out the money that they could receive, and it worked. So the original settlement from the drop zone was refused, and then we kicked in that extra $10,000 and they accepted the settlement. Pat, is that pretty? It was a tactical move, and it worked. So but the board chose to keep it out of the operating fund and not out of the defense fund. So that's an anomaly that you don't normally see. So I just wanted to highlight that. In a nutshell, we saw a relatively healthy $29,000 deficit. Again, this is just back to coming into business again. So many numbers. Okay. This is our statement of cash flows. So overall positive cash flow. When COVID first hit, we brought in the Canadian Emergency Business Account loan of $40,000 and 10,000 of it was forgiven. So even with us repaying the $30,000, we still had positive cash flow. So yeah, overall healthy, even with our increased expenses. Statement of financial position. Again, overall cash balance is still holding pretty stable. We had no new equipment to save disposal, and we're actually upgrading a lot of equipment this year. So you'll start to see some of those changes in future fiscal years. And we still have enough sufficient cash to deal with liabilities. I mentioned that we're now taking in almost zero revenue during the winter months. And we actually pay out probably a quarter of our expenses during those winter months. So we have to have a huge reserve on hand. I mean, our insurance bills are close to $100,000 and they come in, probably I'll get the bill next week. So we have to keep enough reserves in the bank to pay those bills before the season even starts. So just to overlook at the net assets. So the general fund is still sitting healthy with about $250,000. The defense fund is still in excess of its amount of 75,000, which is part of getting increased payments from the defense fund. And I believe it's at when it's above 125,000, that's when the $5 from every affiliation fee goes into the team fund. So basically, so long as the defense fund is healthy, the team fund still gets supported. Use the microphone that's next to you. Yes, you can ask it now. Sure. Hey, Tim.
I didn't know who you were talking to. Hi, Michelle. Could you go back 2 slides, please?
Statement of financial position.
Oh, there's a huge difference in the short-term investments of 426, and in 2022 it was $1 million. What's the huge difference?
Sorry, I can't read the slides here.
Yeah, like if you look on the 3rd line down, it says short-term investments, and then this year was 426, but under the 2022 it says it was $1,087,000. I'm just wondering that's a huge difference.
The 1 million is the addition of the 3 accounts together. So 426 is only the general fund, plus the 182 in the defense, the 478 in the team fund makes the 1 million.
Oh, okay. So the difference then is really only whatever.
50,000.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Oh my God, I was able to answer a question. Ian, don't leave. Whoop. So the net assets, like I said, the defense fund is still healthy and excess of its limit, and the team fund is still doing extremely healthy, regardless of that massive payout that we did in the first 4 years. Any questions on the financial statements? I know most people yeah, it's a lot. Yeah. All right, Madam President.
Oh, is there a question?
Yes.
We're good. We had a question that's going to be responded to by the office, is my understanding. Excellent. Thank you, Michelle. Do I have now a motion to be resolved that the November 30th, 2022 financial statements be compiled by oh, wait, sorry. That's not it. No, I'm on the right one. Pardon me. That the 2022 financial statements compiled by St. Arnaud Pinsett Stetman are accepted and presented. Do I have a member who would like to move this motion? Do I have a mover? Hamilton. Do I have a member who would like to second or shake this motion? Pacific. Seeing these two, this motion is moved and second to adopt be it resolved that the November 30th, 2022 audit be accepted as presented. Do any members wish to debate this? Any virtual? Perfect. If you haven't already done so, please register your vote using Simply Voting. Just FYI, I know everybody, I don't know about you, but I diligently follow agendas like crazy, and item 10 was listed as special business. There is no special business, okay? Moving on to appointment of auditors. The next, be it resolved that St. Arnaud Pinsett Stetman be appointed as auditors for the fiscal year December 1st, 2022 to November 30th, 2023. Do I have a member who would like to move this motion? Geronimo. Hey, Geronimo. Do I have a member who would like to second or shake this motion? Pacific? With this motion made and second, it is moved to adopt the following motion. Be it resolved that St. Arnaud Pinsett Stetman be appointed as auditors for the fiscal year December 1st, 2022 to November 30th, 2023. If you haven't already done, does anybody member wish to debate this? Seeing none, if you haven't already done so, please register your vote using Simply Voting. Oh, that's what it is. Pardon me. Special business. Well, I've already dealt with this. There is no special business. We'll move on. Now I'll invite Michelle back up to go over our presentation of the budget for the 2023 as well as 2024 fiscal year. Thanks, Michelle.
Okay. I apologize. I think we kind of tested this yesterday. I think everybody can read this. So basically the black columns are the year-end income statement numbers from the last 2 fiscal years. Green is the projected budget for 2023. So the fiscal year that we are currently in. It was approved last year. What we've done is just updated the numbers based on what we know is actually going to happen and ongoing. And then the blue column, I think blue, purple, blue. The darker one is the 2024 fiscal year. So next fiscal year. So we do approve 2 budget years at each AGM. Nothing major to note on the revenue section. Again, ask questions at any point. The sporting license issue fees through the Aero Club. Again, we have high years, we have low years, and that coincides with when the World Championships are. Clubs fees, we expect them to kind of stay as is. COPs, again, we've seen a constant trend, so we're assuming we're going to have comparable revenue over the next 2 years. Demo fees actually got really high last year as everybody was coming out of COVID. But what we've done is we budgeted what the averages were before COVID. Again, I'd rather budget low and get higher. Everything else is pretty standard. We actually did pretty good. Like I said, for affiliation fees, we brought in more revenue than we anticipated in last year's budget, but we still want to remain realistic. So we're only budgeting for an increase of 50 RPs per year. And that's kind of a trend that we've been trying to keep and maintain as we grow out of COVID. All the team endowment fund, that's again based on the numbers of affiliations that we anticipate. And long-term donation, non-team fund donations, that is the life insurance policy that is maintained by us. Any questions on the generic revenue section? Cool. I can't read this, which is great. We try this one. So this is the revenue section for drop zones, Campera, and investment income. Again, the numbers for drop zones have remained relatively steady. We did have, I believe, 1 or 2 drop zones closed last year, and some of them changed their classification of membership level. So that is going to shift the expected revenue a little bit. But again, we're assuming it's going to stay relatively stable over the next 2 fiscal years. And as we know what memberships come in, we'll update that. Campera, again, relatively steady. We're seeing it happy with only 5 issues, and we average about between $20,000 and $25,000 in advertising revenue. And we still get people who actually are not part of CSPA, but purchase an actual subscription to Campera. So that's the $100. It's a measly amount that is just there. Investment income, you can see we had a really low when COVID hit. Our interest rates were pretty crappy for everybody. So we didn't have a whole lot of investment income this year. Obviously, that's gone back up. And we're assuming they're going to level out. Questions? Expenses. So payroll is basically the office staff, Judy and I. Those expenses are pretty standard. I still can't read that side. The general office and membership, basically this is the cost of running an organization. Advertising and promotion, we didn't spend any money the last 2 fiscal years, but we keep a budget in there in case any opportunities come up for us. The Aero Club of Canada, again, that fee is dependent on how many skydivers we have affiliated with us. So if we want to grow, which I've assumed we've done in our revenue, then our expense to the Aero Club will also have to grow. So that's what that amount is higher. Awards. Last year we saw a lot of people getting 10-year pins, 15-year pins, 20-year pins. So we actually had to do a massive restock. So that's why it looks like we spent a lot more money in one year than the other year. Again, retention. Those are great expenses for us to spend. Bank charges and interest. Again, if we grow as an organization, we take in more revenue, we pay out more bank charges. Courier and postage, this number was really high this year because of the shipping of the team uniforms. So that number we're expected to stabilize back to what it previously was. And we are still looking at ways to completely digitize everything to reduce things like courier and postage. So still ongoing. We don't have a COVID loan repayment anymore. So that's an empty account. Database management, basically the annual fee that we pay to maintain the database is standard. Depreciation based on new equipment. Their inventory, I'm not planning on buying anything, but I'll use this as a plug. I want to get rid of whatever we do have so I can buy new stuff. So lots of merch over there if you want to buy, including some really beautiful team uniforms. Everything else pretty standard. And the good thing is we had budgeted for a 15% increase on the insurance, and literally in the last 48 hours, we came back and it's going to be a 0% increase. So I forgot to delete the comment, but the numbers are accurate. But we do still keep a 15% budget flexibility for 2024. Questions on those expenses? Super exciting stuff, I know. Yep. I can't read the block on there. Okay. Miscellaneous expenses are pretty standard. Basically, we pay our CAC subscriptions or membership to CAC through that. That's a pretty good chunk of miscellaneous expenses. Director insurance, office cleaning, rent, photocopier lease, all standard organizational expenses. Sporting license issuance fee, basically that's more or less an in and out from the revenue section that we talked about earlier. Translation is extremely high budget this year because, and I'll look at it later, our committees have a lot of projects that they're looking at producing this year, and that costs money in translation. So that's why that's high. And obviously there's no expected expenses for WPC registration fees, but that's just because I've zeroed out the revenue section. So they'll even out if we do have an entry in those. So the board and committee expenses, this is basically the expenses of the board coming to do the AGM here, the committees meeting in person, the conferences that we're going to host. So you can see during COVID, 19,000 and 37,000. Those were very low years. So we're anticipating a big jump to 81,000 and 90,000. The 90,000 for 2024 is still dependent on whether or not we decide to do an in-person AGM. So that number could still go down, but we have not made an official decision on that. So we budgeted as if we will have one, and we'll reevaluate as the fiscal year comes closer. Questions? Competition expenses. This year is nationals, and the board has been generous enough to support a CP selection event that we are in the process of trying to organize. So that number is much higher because it's looking at including a budget for the CP selection event. The miscellaneous competition is just our annual subscription to the in-time judging software. And then the national team support for 2024, that's just a ballpark number, but we won't know until the close of this fiscal year what that payout will be. Campera expenses are pretty standard every year. We are seeing a major shift in that more people are subscribing to the digital version of Campera, and we have not pulled the plug yet on the hard copy, but I believe that is potentially coming down the pipeline. And that will probably adjust the budget by about $30,000. So it is in the works, and stay tuned for further discussions on that. Claims against the defense fund, we just throw in $10,000 because we anticipate every year that we could have a couple defense fund claims. If we don't, great. Pat would be out of a job, but. So overall, if you look at all of our accounts, there's a $65,000 deficit here. Any questions specific on expenses before I go to the summaries? So the numbers that are more important to recognize is the general income loss. So that is the projected deficit out of the operating account. So the big bold numbers at the bottom are the averages out of all three of the funding accounts. But the general, that's where we're looking at all of our operating expenses. In the last 5 years, we've projected that high of a deficit. And last year was the first year we actually ran a deficit, and it was only $9,000. That being said, every year we are recognizing that budgeting $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 deficits is not financially responsible. And that is something we're working with our committees with to make sure that what they're wanting money for is actually getting spent and not continuously carried over. This year is projected to be much higher, again, because I said all these big projects that were kind of put on hold during COVID are starting to come to an end. So a lot of those are going to be one-time expenses that are not expected to carry over into future years. And the $63,000 deficit projection for 2024, usually we drop that by about 15 by the time actual expenses start coming in the future. But also there's some big ticket items in there that we haven't officially made decisions on, such as doing an in-person AGM. So we do have enough money in the reserves to run a large deficit for 1 or 2 years, but not to maintain that moving forward. And it's not off the table to start looking at ways to start increasing our revenue, specifically if we need to start looking at increasing affiliation fees again to offset the costs of running, basically. Questions? Sorry, Madam President, would you like to do your officially recognized?
Kelouac,
Yes.
ask your
Okay,
question.
my question, Michelle, is, can you tell me at this point in time, if you needed to increase affiliation fees, how much would they need to increase to cover 65,993?
More than one increase.
More than you want, but how
More
much
than-
is that?
I think when we were looking at, if we increase, we'd be looking at between $10 and $15. It would be a big increase.
It's only a beer and a half.
So it's on the agenda for the board to look at following this meeting. And again, it will be reflected if we do it in the 2024 budget.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Skydive Vancouver Island.
Yes. Michelle, I know that there was some recent conversations you had with other affiliations around the country. Could you maybe elaborate on where Canada stands for Are fees comparative across other countries and what we get for our fees comparatively?
So for those of you who don't know, I was on a panel discussion at PIA with Australia, Britain, and the USPA. And one of the questions posed in this panel was what our affiliation fees are and what comes with that. We're kind of in the middle. We have a middle ground in terms of membership numbers and our fee. So the biggest competitor to us is obviously USPA. They're right down south, and the average person looks at dollar value. They don't average care what we offer. So USPA, I believe for a foreign member, aka Canadian, I believe is 79 US a year, something comparable to that, plus any license fees and ratings every year. And they only offer 50,000. Oh yeah, they charge you for records. We wouldn't do that. Australia is, I think, something like $300 Australian a year, which is the equivalent to about maybe $250 for us, something $215 Australian dollars. But they also get like $20 million of liability insurance, and that's self-funded. And they also get personal liability. They have a few extra benefits. And then Great Britain, I can't remember. Do you remember from the 210 pounds, which yeah. Yeah, what you said. So comparatively, we actually have a very small affiliation fee compared to the other countries. Again, I'm cognizant of the fact that our biggest threat down south is much cheaper than that, and they haven't increased their fees in over a decade. So I recognize that we offer way more items, but the average skydiver looks at the dollar value. And it's really hard to argue 79 to 105, let alone 115, 120. So big discussions that the board will be having in the future. Optics on face value, $79. So again, we're looking at that, but we're also seeing COVID have a regrowth, and that's also going to help us. And again, whether or not we make some major structural changes will also help determine that. So to be determined, I guess, is how I would finish that. Any other questions?
Yeah, we have a question from Niagara Skydive.
Hey, Tim, again.
Hi there. I'm not sure whether this is the right time to ask this question or to bring this up, but you talked about the possibility of doing away with the printed Canpera. Is that something that should be discussed now, or is there an opportunity later to discuss that?
The board is currently looking at that as an option. We just haven't had an opportunity to loop in the people of the Canpera team to make that decision. A lot of skydivers have mentioned that they don't want to get rid of the hard copy issue, and we're cognizant of that. But we're also seeing, like I said, a major shift in people interested in getting the digital. So in the last year and a half, that number has gone from like 100 to 700. So only now are we're starting to see that pivotal change, and that's where these discussions are starting to take place. But that is the route that we're kind of leaning towards, I guess, would be the answer to your question.
Okay, so the answer to the question was, this is the time to discuss it, and
fortunately, it wasn't on the meeting agenda, so it can't be discussed technically. Ms. President.
Hey, Tim, all I'm going to say is, yes, not on today's agenda, so not a discussion for right now. But if you have any comments, concerns, anything like any input, email it to the office. The office will forward it to the board, and we'll certainly put that into review when we're having the board discussions.
so
And even if you want to, you can put in a request to sit in our next board meeting as an observer.
no, I just
after
wanted
you provided.
I just wanted to put in the perspective from a drop zone owner about the importance of having the magazines lying around in the waiting room when the weather's bad, because it's great to see people picking those up. And the only comment I really wanted to make, which I'm just going to go ahead and make, is if you do decide to do away with the printed material, and I know that's the way of the times, that perhaps you could come up with some marketing material that the drop zone owners could have around the drop zone, like you would when you went into a restaurant, where they can, do that QR code that will link them to the online version of our magazines, so that during poopy weather, potential skydivers have an opportunity to be looking at pretty pictures of people skydiving and fantastic stories about what you guys do.
These almost all, like, I'm all for, my mind is a sieve. I love all those ideas. Email me, email off, whatever, just write them down, send them my way, or even voice message yourself, send it to me. I don't care, because I will forget. But yeah, love all of that. Yes, we're all looking into all of those options.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? We have Skydive Toronto.
I should also elaborate that we haven't totally kiboshed the idea of hard copy. And even if we went 100% digital, we're still looking at the cost of people being able to pay extra to still have hard copy.
For some time now, I've been wondering whether it would be possible for CSPA to create a drop zone committee. And I think that we mutually have a beneficial relationship, and we could collaborate and attack subjects like these, like how do we raise the affiliations within Canada, and for many more reasons, but I just think that it could be a great movement. And I think that's similar along the lines to what Tim is suggesting as well, if I may say.
Does that require a budget? Fair question. No, but I like the
I don't
idea of
know.
drop zones collaborating, but are you expecting money from CSPA to do that? Or just a platform to do it?
I think it's a platform.
totally
and to
different.
Have DZOs,
Yep.
work together in collaboration with CSPA to come up with ideas to address issues. Because from my opinion, where are they derived from?
Drop
They're
zones.
from drop zones. And we can see through the budget that most of the revenues are collected from memberships. So if we can have that relationship in a positive way, hopefully we can increase the.
Judy, can you put this on the post AGM, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there is a drop zone Facebook group, but I believe there's only like one person that actually uses it. There's another online question.
We have an online question from Mr. Google Pixel 7 Pro.
Hi, is this coming through okay?
It is.
Okay, this is Burke Skydive South Sass. Just a suggestion to think about. Do not raise the affiliation fee, but instead have a yearly CSPA fee that for the calendar year, January to December. 2 bonuses for that. Number one, when you have students who buy their membership in July or August and get their license, it's only good for the calendar year. They have to buy again the next year. And the other point that Michelle brought up, 25% of our expenses are spent in the winter months. And that's January, February, when we don't have any income. This would have income if you send out an email to all of the members to buy your yearly CSPA membership. And that's all I have to say.
Unfortunately, they'll just wait until skydiving season to pay it, from what I've seen. But yes, point taken, post AGM agenda. Thank you. Yeah.
Temporary affiliations. I think, although introduced 2 years ago, is still not adopted well across drop zones. Could you, and yet we look at the budget, I mean, it's minimal, but there's definitely a lot of people from out of country that jump at our drop zone. So there's an opportunity there. Could you just take a moment to really explain what the temporary affiliation is and how it benefits the jumper and the drop zone?
Good with that?
No. No, you're good with that.
I meant, are you good with me answering it?
justice.
So the reason that it's so, I want to say, we don't anticipate that the temporary memberships being a high source of revenue, primarily because there are very few drop zones that actually require it. Most drop zones in Canada are fine with the memberships that come from foreign organizations. The drop zones that utilize the temporary affiliations primarily are ones that require more than $50,000 liability insurance on their airports. So that's why I don't see that number going up unless the airport management groups maybe will change the rules, and we'll see that as a trend. Most drop zones in Canada are still recognizing, when we throw out USPA, because again, that's our direct neighbors, that's the trend. So the temporary affiliation offers you 3 months of the liability insurance. no access to COPs or ratings. So you can't grow as a skydiver. Otherwise, that would just be a way to bypass and abuse the system. You only get a digital Campera. You can't get a hard copy Campera. Judy, am I missing anything? Well, everybody gets the 5 million now. So yeah, it's only valid for 3 months. We do see some drop zones have skydivers that pay it twice. So for 6 months time, but they are foreign memberships. And at that point, I'm like, you should just join us, but that's not my argument. So yeah, that's why it's such a small piece of revenue, is because most drop zones in Canada are still accepting USPA memberships. That being said, there are some countries that are their insurance is not valid in Canada, Australia and France being two prominent ones. So we see a lot of members from those organizations doing the temporary affiliation while they're visiting, especially in Quebec. So yeah, I would not rely on that being a good source of revenue, because again, I don't have any control over that. Unless you as CSPA drop zones choose to just keep supporting us and want everybody to be CSPA. Any further questions on the budget? No.
Hello, just to expand on that, I mean, to have a skydiver jump at your drop zone that only has $50,000 worth of third-party liability, and he can land on a plane and easily do that much damage, and then you're going to be on the hook for more of that. So we require at our drop zone, I'm wearing my SVI hat right now. If you're a USPA drop zone or you're a foreign affiliation, we make you get the third-party liability through CSPA, because we got a great big building they could land on. There's all sorts of things they could cause damage with, vehicles nearby and whatever else, cause a car accident on the highway. And it covers our bacon, and it costs them $35. And they get a chance to get a little taste of what CSPA is all about. And we've managed to convert a lot of guys to full annual memberships afterwards. So yeah, if somebody shows up with a USPA membership, I mean, why are you willing to take that hit in the event that he does something stupid? Yeah. So get a foreign affiliate, get a temporary membership.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right. What?
I would just like to second that. I completely agree with Gord, and at Skydive Toronto, foreign skydivers, they must get the temporary membership. If we have foreign instructors, they must get the annual. And I think it's a really simple and easy way to support our association as well.
99% of the temporary affiliations come from Skydive Toronto and Vancouver Island. So thanks, guys.
Are we good?
And I was just going to say to any DZOs who are concerned about it, in the 2 years I have been, it's mandatory. Not one person has objected, complained, or anything about actually paying the $35. As soon as I just say, are you ready to pay more? So yeah, so no one's ever complained.
Thank you, Skydive Vancouver Island and Skydive Toronto. I'm going to close it for comments, concerns, and suggestions. Please do email us should you have more. Friendly reminder, this AGM is for members. There's also times for proposals, and we're waiting for those, the 45 days prior to the AGM. And then when we give notice, minimum of 21 days, that's all available. So get involved. This is a bit of a handshake, finger shaking. Get involved. This is your membership. I just happen to be gracious enough to work with these folks here and keep us afloat in a lovely, fun way. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Michelle. Be it resolved that the budget for the 2022-2023 be accepted as presented. Do I have a member who would like to move this motion? Do I have a mover? Pacific. Thank you. Do I have a member who would like to second this motion to be our shaker? Chaos. Chaos is a shaker. Yeah. If moved and seconded, the adopted following motion, be it resolved that the budget for 2022 to 2023 be accepted as presented. Does any member wish to debate this? Any virtual? No, seeing no members. Perfect. If you haven't already done so, please register your vote using the Simply Voting. Excellent. Moving on to item 14 of our agendas. That's both budget. Thank you. There we go. Also, we be it resolved that the budget for the 2023 to 2024 be accepted as presented. Do I have a member who would like to move this motion? What Jocelyn said? I'm sorry, I will be better. I'm practicing, I'm learning. Parachute voltige. Do I have a member who would like to second this motion? SVI. It is moved and seconded to adopt the following motion. Be it resolved that the budget for the 2023 and 2024 be accepted as presented. Do I have any members who wish to debate this? Oh, seconder was SV Skydive Vancouver Island. SV, V as in Victor or Vancouver. Sorry, does any member wish to debate this? Any online? If you haven't already done so, please register your vote using the Simply Voting. Now on to item 14, being the election of directors. Incumbents this year. There are 4 positions available in accordance with PIM 3, section 4.10. 3 incumbents have set their intention to remain on the board. Whoop, whoop. This means that there's 1 position open. 1 nomination was received by the record date. Therefore, in accordance with section 4.9, these 4 individuals are now declared the board of directors by ordinary resolution. Thank you, Bernie. We look forward to having you on the team. Therefore, the motion is, be it resolved that Jason Warren, Jocelyn Brunet, Brian DiCenzo, and Bernie Fullerton be declared to the board of directors. Do I have a member who would like to move this motion? Do I have a motioner? I'm gonna officiate, like make this official, and then Second decade motions. Do I have a shaker? Seconder? It's fizzy. With this motion moved and seconded to adopt that these incumbents and a new director be brought onto the board. Do I have any members who wish to debate this? Any online? Perfect. Then if you haven't already done so, please register your vote. Assuming that the vote is going to go the way I suspect. Bernie, do you want to come up and say a few things about yourself, to introduce yourself to the membership who's here today, and on behalf of the door? You don't have to make it long.
I didn't know I had to come up here, but so my name is Bernie Fullerton, and my husband and I retired couple of years ago, and to pick up as a hobby, he said, "What would you like to do?" And I said, "I want to jump out of planes." And I started. I wish I had done it earlier, which apparently everyone says who starts later. And it's so true. And I can't become any more passionate about this. So I thought, well, I think Doreen, you touched it when you said, you know, a great association is run by the volunteers that step forward. So I've done a lot of volunteer boards, usually for children, and these are just adult children. So it should be a lot of fun. That's it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Bernie. Thank you so much, Bernie. We look forward to growing with you. Finally, next, item 15, our award presentation. This is the last section of the AGM, which recognizes the many accomplishments and achievements of CSPA skydivers. All right. In 1981, it's a fantastic year if I do say so myself, a skydiving exhibition team was formed by John Wallace with the purpose of promoting the sport of skydiving. From the start, they performed as a first-class team and progressed from local community events to performing the large venues both in Canada and the United States. Over the last 40 years, their performances have held to educate the public and promote our sport of parachuting. If you are one of the many volunteers or performers who have jumped with the team over the years, you own part of this service reward. I am honored to present the Kathy Johnson Award to Geronimo Skydiving Team.
We actually have a member of this team in the audience. Madam Mercer, would you like to stand up? Round of applause. You can hate me later.
We'll do a picture together later. Do you want to accept it now or do you want to come up later? Yeah. Yeah. You can hold it, right? Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. That's awesome. Next up, Glenn R. Masterson Memorial Trophy. So initiated by the Canadian Sport Parachuting Association in March of 1979, this trophy is to honor the memory of Glenn R. Masterson, who was a pioneer in the sport of parachuting. This prestigious trophy is awarded to the individual or individuals who have performed heroic actions for contributing to the advancement of our sport. Now, this individual was a true titan in the sport who on many levels contributed to the advancement of this sport. He was respected by many locally, provincially, nationally, and internationally. During his 53 years as a CSPA skydiver with over 15,000 jumps, he held almost every rating possible and in one of the few to hold an E license. What? He was awarded the CSPA Service Award in 1982. He contributed to the sport he dedicated to his life to on multiple levels, including he served on the Technical Training and Safety Committee. He was a founding member of the Transport Canada Committee when the cars were first introduced. He was a driving force in the progression of the use of RAM air parachutes for students and was on the one of the first to do so in Canada. He was a pioneer in the sport, being the first in Canada to offer first jump PFF. He trained a number of Europeans who traveled to his drop zone to complete the PFF program and obtain a CSPA ACOP so that upon returning home, they could enjoy free fall sooner than if they followed their country's progression. He was a volunteer instructor, course administrator, and skydiving school examiner and contributor to Campera. In addition, he hosted many CSPA coach, instructor, and rigging courses for jumpers from his and other drop zones. He promoted competition by hosting a fun annual accuracy meet and by hosting the Nationals in 1990. He was highly respected internationally and was invited to numerous record-setting events. He was one of the few to represent Canada in the 400-way record set in 2006 in Thailand. Over the decades, he participated in many demo jumps to promote the sport, jumping for grade school fundraising events and onto the beach at Grand Bend, to name a few. His drop zone had a reputation of excellence, as was chosen by some high-profile people as a place to do their jump. Twice a year, for many years, cadets from the Robert Land Academy in Wildenport came to get their wings. Overall, he positively impacted thousands of lives, teaching people to skydive and introducing them to our sport. He was a mentor to many jumpers. His drop zone produced not only coaches and instructors, but riggers, judges, committee members, club directors, and a CSPA president, who all in turn contributed to the advancement of sport parachuting. He took great pride in being a rigger bee, and he apprenticed many up and coming riggers. He had built his own container and jumped it for years. Another interesting contribution was of social nature. A number of couples met at his drop zone who in turn had children who later became jumpers themselves and became contributing to the sport. Skydiving was his passion. He was not only with CSPA for 53 years, he was a support and promoter. He worked tirelessly to give his time and expertise to shape a continuous development of rating holders. This helped CSPA have a positive succession. He contributed to CSPA policy, programs, and procedures that furthered the advancement of sport parachuting in Canada. His contributions were all that this award was meant to recognize. It is with sadness that we did not submit this application while he was alive, but he was taken from us suddenly. If it's not obvious right now, I'm honored and posthumously present CSPA's highest honor to Mr. Bob Wright. In a nutshell, be like Bob.
Mary is watching online. Mary, if you would like to say something.
The floor can be yours, Mary, if you like.
Hi, thank you so much. I can't say much, but Bob was so honored to be a member of CSPA and to be able to contribute. Skydiving was his passion. It's all that he lived for. He was skydiving on Saturday and then he was gone on Monday when I got home. So, you know, he skydived right to the end, and that meant a lot to him. I'm so honored that he has received this award. I know he is smiling down right now. Bob always had was really very upbeat. And he always used to tell me, and I think it's just my one takeaway from Bob, and I just want to add it to this group. He would always tell me if I would get blue or upset or sad about something, he'd always tell me, it's always sunny above the clouds. So please take that away and know how honored we are and I am to receive this award. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Side note, Mary, without you and your support, he couldn't excel to be himself. So thank you too. All right. Does anybody need a moment to breathe? That was good. That was beautiful. All right. Now, this is going to be harder, at least for me. Retirement. As mentioned earlier today, we have somebody retiring from one of our committees. Okay. Sorry. Estrogen, man, I tell you. After 26 years of volunteering with CSPA, Doreen Westgamo is leaving us. Doreen has been a CSPA skydiver for over 49 years now and has been volunteering since 1997. Doreen has over 800 jumps and is also a FAI rated judge. She is a big deal. Here are some of her volunteering stats. 1997 to 2008, she was on the CNTC, and I realize we haven't been stating these acronyms best enough, so let's actually acknowledge them in their full capacity. Competition and National Teams Committee had her from 1997 to 2008. She was on the Sport Canada Committee from 2008 to 2013, providing lots of input for funding until the funding ended with Sport Canada. She was with the long-term athlete development from 2008 to 2015. And at 2015, that's when the Women's Initiative Committee became a separate committee. 2008 to 2017, she was part of the Competitive Development Committee until the CWC took over the Comp Dev. She's been judging on the judging committee from 2016 to 2017, but in the new committee that was created from the Competition and National Teams Committee. And finally, the long-term athlete development has had her graciously from 2008 to present. Are those stats correct, Doreen? Doreen was also the recipient of the 1999 CSPA Service Award, which is now known as the Kathy Johnson Service Award, which I didn't describe earlier because I wanted to do it now. This award is awarded to an individual in recognition of the outstanding contribution and dedication which they voluntarily provided over a long period of time in support of our sport of parachuting to the association. It is hard to capture everything that Doreen has done for CSPA, but a few notable items include working on funding projects with Sport Canada, as well as funding for athletes. She was monumental in co-structuring and co-creating the long-term athlete development structure, the flight plan, along with the CSPA competition development program. Now, when I ask people about Doreen, this is what people describe her as. She's dependable. She's hardworking. She's kind, fun, calm, reserved, a good leader, and passionate. You could almost include that she has a really good zinger or two every now and then that makes everybody notice her. It is undeniable that Doreen and her wealth of knowledge have made her mark in our association and our sport in Canada. We will be forever indebted to you. Thank you, Doreen, for sharing your guidance, your wisdom, and your dedication. Please come up here to accept a little token of our thanks.
Thank you for all the kind words. That I'm retiring from the committee, but hopefully we'll still see people around at some point in time. So stay safe, everyone.
Wow. Okay. This now concludes the 2023 AGM. Thank you so much for coming, either in person or virtually. Thank you so much for participating. Thanks so much for your passion. Just thank you. Thank you for being here. On behalf of the board of directors, we wish to thank everybody for coming, watching, and listening. Yeah, feel free to stick around for some good chit chat. We've got lots of expertise here, lots of new thoughts. So share with each other. Be it resolved. Be it resolved that the 2023 AGM be adjourned. A member who would like to move this motion is Descenders. A member who would like to second or shake this motion would be Chaos. It is moved and seconded to adopt the following motion that it resolved that this 2023 AGM be adjourned. Here, do I have any? Wait, I'm not done. Any members wish to debate this? Let's keep. Excellent. If you haven't already done so, please register your vote using the Simply Voting. Okay. Adjourned. Thank you. Oh, hold on. Sorry. Yeah. Yes, up next, we do have a Transport Canada open forum for Pat Floyd, open forum, voting members and board only. So unfortunately, all of our observers, I do have to ask you to leave as we do have a bit of business to get a hold of. And then dinner is at the OCCO Oko Kitchen at 160 Bay Street at 6 p.m. Am I missing something? So we'll hang out until what time did we ask them to come? 2:30. Okay. Virtual people, did you hear that? You can stay on and wait, I'm confused now. We're closing it for everybody. Yes. virtual members can stay. Oh, so everybody can stay. Voting member. Okay, thank you. That's why it is hard. RPs, voting members and everything. Voting members on virtual, you can remain online. They're due, Transport Canada is due to be here by 2:30. Everyone else, we will have to ask you to excuse us. Good. All right. Merci.